Hi, Bruno Jr. here. Our podcast, Busting Addiction and Myths, is sponsored by SafeHouseRehab.com. SafeHouse believes that traditional treatments fall short of the needs of clients who face the modern problems of addiction. Modern problems need modern solutions. Multiple addictions, multiple relapses, multiple triggers, and cheaper and more powerful street drugs set up unprecedented challenges facing treatment centers. What is needed is a more sophisticated approach, a better way forward. There are 3 reasons to choose our progressive modern treatment program. 1, a more sophisticated intake process. 2, technology proven to enhance recovery. And 3, the most robust aftercare program in our sector. To learn more, visit us at SafeHouseRehab.com. Season 9. The illusion of a cure. The public still believes a lot of myths about alcoholism and addiction. One example is that only 25% of the public believe that addiction is a chronic medical condition. It's easy to see how one can become very confused about the nature of the disease when you just search cure for alcoholism. What you will find is some truth and some very misleading quasi-advice, including how you can stop or moderate your drinking on your own. For example, there was an organization years ago called Moderation Anonymous, but that lasted until the leader crashed her car and got it driving under the influence. If you are serious about understanding addictive disorder, just go to the organizations scientists have dedicated their lives to understanding the diseases and the approaches available to treating them successfully. The first thing you should do when confronted with the very thought that a loved one might be at risk for addiction is to get educated on the nature of the disease. All the research that really matters about alcoholism is to be found at www.cdc.gov/alcohol and about drugs at www.drugabuse.gov. For an insider's view of the diseases, visit aa.org or na.org. If you are a long-suffering spouse, parent, or sibling, or even a friend of an addict or alcoholic, then there is alanon.org, al-anon.org, where you will get a new perspective on addiction, whether it's to alcohol or to drugs or to gambling. As for gambling, well, the most destructive addictions as measured by the speed of its negative effects, there is ga.org. We screen for gambling addiction, as a matter of course, at Safe House Rehab. When you suffer from someone in your family in the grip of an addictive disorder, you are prone to desperately look for answers, and you may find misleading advice coming across your social media feed. Half of all the so-called news on social media platforms is polluted anyway. Friends say they know something when it's just hearsay. Education is the key to understanding and a sense of what to do next. Here's what the science of today says about addictive disorder. Some call it SUD, a substance use disorder that tries to avoid the stigma of alcoholism or drug addiction. I've decided to make this next section of my essay to be a Q&A about alcoholism and drug addiction. The questions represent what many families have asked us over the last several years on this topic. Question: is there a cure for drug addiction or alcoholism? Answer: this is the most frequently asked question, and we see the illusion of a cure being sold online and elsewhere. A client of one treatment center on the west coast of the U.S. says, "I am now cured," just to get you in, and that is absolutely shameful. The fact is that there is no known cure for alcoholism or drug addiction. There are substances that reduce the craving or cause users to become nauseous when drinking, such as Antabuse, but these are at best temporary solutions. Question: does addiction ever resolve itself on its own? Although some pray and hope that if they just leave it alone, it will resolve itself on its own. If we are dealing with a true case of addiction and or alcoholism, that is, years of alcohol or drug abuse, the disease has a long way to go before utter annihilation of that person. Addiction and alcoholism are progressive disorders, period. Left untreated, they always get worse, never better. Question: is addiction a disease? And people still ask this, believe it or not. It amazes us that so many people still think of addiction and or alcoholism as symptoms of weak moral character or simply what bad people do. The best scientists in the world on this topic work for the CDC in the U.S. They can get incredibly detailed imagery of diseased brains that show the anomalies in addicts' brains versus the profile of non-addictive brains. Their science has proven that addiction is a disease of the brain that profoundly diminishes or actually destroys the ability of the individual to make rational decisions. Addicts' decisions are invariably self-destructive, as the disease is now in control of a damaged brain. Addicts and alcoholics, when they're drinking or using, have brain damage. And when you have brain damage, you cannot make good decisions. Period. Case closed. Question: does treatment for addiction or alcoholism work? There is effective treatment for alcoholism and drug addiction that consists of complete abstinence at the outset. This first step is followed by cognitive and emotional therapies designed to address the damage to the brain caused by substance abuse. Treatment is intended as a U-turn in the trajectory of the person's life and must be followed by a personal commitment to personal growth. The recovering person is encouraged not only to stay clean and sober, but to go beyond by helping others, usually in the context of a 12-step AA or NA program. The next one is very often asked, and I'm not surprised that people want to know the answer to this one, and the question here is, what are the odds of a complete recovery? Well, the success of one's recovery is ultimately up to the individual and his or her level of personal daily commitment. That shouldn't be surprising. That said, relapses are not uncommon and should be considered as opportunities to begin anew. Don't quit trying to quit is a common saying in our recovering community. Speaking for myself and the dozen or so addicts or alcoholics whom I know very well, only one of us got it, quote, the first time and has never relapsed in the 38 years of his sobriety. The rest of us have had at least 2 or more tries before we surrendered to the truth. Some of my good friends report 7 tries, many 3 or more. I was lucky. I got it after only 1 relapse. But I needed that ride to the gates of hell to turn me around and surrender and made me realize I cannot do this by myself and I need help. What have we learned about addiction and alcoholism today? Well, we learned that contrary to the myths, that 1, there is no cure for alcoholism or drug addiction, and any claims to the contrary are misguided and or attempts to seduce us into buying a bogus service or product. Number 2, untreated addiction never gets better if left alone. It is well known as a progressive disorder and has been proven so for over half a century. 3, addiction and alcoholism are diseases of the brain in their own right. They are not symptoms or byproducts of other disease states. They are chronic medical disorders as defined by the AMA and the countless other entities, including the CDC, who are experts in the field. Number 4, treatment for addiction and alcoholism have been proven to work for those who make the commitment to abstinence and addressing the mental and emotional distortions and immaturities that come with addiction. The recovering person must take full responsibility for his or her own recovery. However, since treatment is just intended as a course correction to get the individual back on the right path, it should be taken seriously as the first step forward in a lifelong effort to maintain sobriety. Number 5, the odds of complete long-lasting recovery are very good. Despite the reports of relapses along the way, we consider a relapse as a reminder of how powerful the disease really is. One of our common sayings in the recovering community is, don't quit trying to quit, as very few of us got it on the first try. And the point is to keep trying until you get it. Keep trying until the miracle happens. Our podcast is sponsored by SafeHouseRehab.com, a modern approach to recovery. To learn more, visit us at SafeHouseRehab.com.